Hi, how you doing? Okay, this is a very hopefully this will be a very important video, very heartfelt, very intimate. So I watch a lot of YouTube videos and I keep, people that care about transgender people and are trying to help us. They say, and really just LGBT people altogether. They say that we can't help it, and then the religiosos and the ones that are against us say things like, they say, dude, you're not gay, you're just a pervert. Gay is a sin, and God doesn't create people to sin. So if you would just stop doing that, then you would come unto the fold of heaven, and you wouldn't have to go to hell anymore, and you would be happier, and the Lord would bless you. Which is probably the root of a lot of our problems, because religion pretty much encourages people to think, to put no creative effort into empathizing with this, But it's like, this video, I'm trying to make it about, like, what do I think, as far as myself personally. Do I think I can help it? And like, the way I would word that is that, a person naturally has the right to take care of oneself. Like in the Constitution, we say the freedom, the right to the pursuit of happiness. So if there was someone that's addicted to heroin, and they quit the heroin, and it was this big hard thing to do, and they're lucky they survived it, and they stopped the heroin, would you tell the heroin junkie, dude, what you are is a heroin addict? And would you try to legally force them and morally force them to go back to using heroin, because after all, that's what they are, as a heroin addict? Or would you encourage them to take care of themselves and not use heroin, and to find other things in life that fill in that void, and to take care of themselves and pursue true happiness, Well, it's the same thing, Like, transitioning female has been this big, huge miracle. It's taught me to know myself better than ever, and that's what I personally believe as far as the purpose of life and everything. It's not to go to heaven. I don't believe in the idea of heaven and hell. I believe that the purpose of life is to know thyself, and it's done miracles for teaching me about myself. It's brought me to whole new levels of mental health and things like that. And wanting or desiring me to, that's why I don't hang out with people that believe it's a sin, because I don't want that projected onto me, because I should be encouraged to be healthy and happy, not to go back to using heroin, so to speak, So can I help it? Well, technically, I guess I could stop taking hormones, and I could, I guess, wear a really tight shirt so you can't tell I have boobs, and to wear boy clothes, and just give up the whole thing, And so I suppose that in the end, everything is a choice in a way. But then, why would I do that if I know that would take away the goodness of life? It would take away my personal growth and progress, as an individual. That would be like shooting myself in the foot, It's not natural to shoot yourself in the foot. Why don't you shoot yourself in the foot? Go get a gun and shoot yourself in the foot. Why don't you admit you could choose to shoot yourself in the foot? It's natural not to, right? You naturally don't want to shoot yourself in the foot. See how that's natural and how you can't help it? So what about being born transgender? Do I believe that I was born transgender? I believe that people are born with certain tendencies. I believe I was born. I don't believe that anybody is born LGBT in a sense. People are just born with the tendency to do that. And what happens is we know with epigenetics, we know, like, as far as genes, like if you repress certain genes, then they don't become a dominant part of you. And if you like bring out certain qualities that are based on your genes, then that's going to empower those genes. The same with your genes, your chromosomes, your everything. We have epigenetics that changes your genes and changes anything about you physically. Based on how you live your life and the things you think about. As a man thinketh, so is he. What you think about, you give power to. So as you go through life, you're born with a tendency, but if you go with that tendency, it starts changing you, your genes, and it starts literally changing you. And it also, we learn how to think and we learn how to be ourselves. As you go through those steps, it just builds on itself. And then that's why we say that you're born LGBT, because really it was more like a tendency. So that's what I believe. And so that's why the people against LGBT people think that it's this new thing, because there's suddenly more LGBT people, But it's because we live in a world that's there's still a lot of oppression out there, but there's also a lot of understanding, and a lot of people do believe that you're born that way and stuff. So that when that belief is there, then you start going down that road and you start, the epigenetics and things start kicking in, see? Whereas like with my generation, the option, like nobody had heard of transgender people when I was a kid. That just wasn't an idea that was out there. I can't imagine how anybody could have known, and I'm sure it was technically out there, and so there would have been people that that knew more about it, but in my world there was just it wasn't mentioned. If it was, you just didn't think anything of it. You might think, oh man, that would be nice, but then anyway, you get the idea. So yeah, I believe that people are born that way, but I believe that it's not, that's kind of like a slippery slope, because then it turns into this contest where you're trying to prove, it's like, like you have more respect for someone that was dressing like a girl when they were 3 years old than someone that didn't start dressing like a girl till they were 27 or 30 or 40 or something, But you have to take each case individually, So really, the problem is a lack of empathy, and narcissism is encouraged because it pays better, and it has more respect, and our society's set up to encourage narcissism and lack of compassion and selfishness and egocentrism, So that's really what the problem is. We know that I'm a Rastafarian. Haile Selassie, aka Rastafari, he wrote a speech, and he gave the speech many places, and Bob Marley turned it into a song, the song War, where he's talking about racism, and he says, "Until the day the color of a man's skin is of no more significance than the color of his eyes." And I think that's literally the greatest statement ever made about the subject of racism. Until a man's skin is of no more significance than the color of their eyes. It's not saying you're colorblind is kind of like being racist, because that implies that you need to be blind to that they're black or that they're Asian or something, But saying that it's like the color of a man's eyes says that I can recognize you for who you are, but it just doesn't matter as far as, it doesn't mean that I need to be racist. So it's the same type of thing, with trans people. until the day that misgendering a transgender person is no different than calling a 50-year-old woman old, right? Because we know, like, if a woman's 60 years old, you don't say, dude, you are old. Or if she's overweight, you don't say, dude, you are fat. Or if a woman's ugly, you don't say, you're an ugly bitch. We know not to treat women that way. But then if it's a trans woman, suddenly it's like, oh, you're using male pronouns, and you're like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't help it. You're not making a real effort to empathize and to work with it, So until the day misgendering a transgender person is of no difference than calling a 60-year-old woman old. Think about it. So in your mind, as you're trying to understand it, imagine telling a 50-year-old woman, dude, you're old. Tell her, like, just spend the whole day saying, wow, I'm starting to think about how old you are again, dude. And then 5 minutes later say, wow, I'm still just really kind of overwhelmed by how old you are. You're just ancient. Man, are you old? That would be, you would know better than that. That's wrong, right? You wouldn't treat a woman that way. So why is it any different calling me male pronouns? So until the day that you understand that there's no difference there, then mankind will know no true peace until all the pieces are put together and represented and respected. The racism puzzle, the transgender puzzle, the gay puzzle, until, not puzzle, but puzzle piece. When all the pieces are put together to make a whole picture, then we'll have what we're looking for with world peace and all this, Until then, it'll remain just a fleeting illusion to be pursued but never attained. I'll put in the description box a link to Bob Marley's song. But really, you apply Rastafarianism, aka the song War by Bob Marley, if you apply that, which is the pinnacle of all Rastafarianism, to the transgender question, you'll see, it doesn't matter if we're born that way or not, and it applies to just anything, And so, and as far as like the Bible saying, well, the Bible calls it a sin, those people don't know anything about Hebrew or the Kabbalah or who wrote the Bible. It's not possible to say the Bible is the Word of God and be saying something intelligent at the same time. It's 100%, it's a fact, it's unintelligent to call the Bible the Word of God. If you know anything about history and archaeology and who wrote the Bible and any of the facts about the matter, you say, well, it's written in inspiration. No, we know too much. There's no reason for that ignorance. Personally, I'm a Christian and I believe in the Bible and I love the Bible, but I don't believe it's the Word of God. And I don't believe that I'll ever really know Jesus for who he really was, because by the time you get the New Testament, it's so perverted and retranslated and everything that it's all embellished. And, and it's the same with all the stories and all the prophets. We'll never know what really happened or what those people were really like or what they really said, because the Bible's not the Word of God, okay? And when you start looking at the bigger picture of religion, it doesn't need to be thrown out. All gods are made by the hand of man, Like I'm into witchcraft. Like any witch knows all gods are made by the hand of man. They're just symbols that you use, just like letters in an alphabet. They're just tools you use to represent certain forces and powers that are real.